Welcome in, everybody, to another episode of 410 Sports Talk. James Haskell, Glenn Martin, and we are here tonight, if you can believe it or not, to talk about Week 5 of the NFL, the Baltimore Ravens' first divisional matchup against the Cincinnati Bengals. Of course, that'll be going down here coming up soon. But tonight, the goal is to give you the breakdown, right? Tell you about the Ravens, tell you about the Bengals, the matchup, offense and defensively, some players to look out for, some things to look out for. And then, of course, we're going to be having a guest on from the Bengals side that we're pretty excited about as well to give you their take, see how confident he's feeling about that team right now and see what his playoff hopes are. But before we do, we got to talk about our awesome sponsor, BetOnline. Glenn's got some cool stuff that he's going to tell us that's going on. Glenn, what are they working on? What are they cooking?
Yeah, BetOnline. Well, first and foremost, they are the world's most trusted betting platform and your number one source for everything football. BetOnline has every stat, every matchup, and even live odds and spreads to bet on while the games are being played. If you think you know your stuff, get in on the $200,000 mega contest and pick five games against the spread every week for your chance at weekly prizes and a chance of a share of $200K, ladies and gentlemen, $200,000 when the games are over. Of course, head on over to the online casino, get in a hand of blackjack, some poker, or unwind with over 150 slot games. Head to the website today to get in on the action. Bet online. The game starts here.
Let's go. Speaking of the game, that's what we're here to talk about, right, Glenn?
Yeah,
I'm so excited to get some divisional football going on here. And usually I feel like the Ravens, I could be wrong, but I feel like they started a little earlier the past few years. It's week 5, first division matchup.
Yeah.
I think one of the years we were pretty backloaded, though. So I think
the NFL made a conscious effort to backload a lot of those matchups to make more interesting for the end of the season.
Yeah, no, most definitely makes sense.
Yep.
We know the NFL is about their money. But look, ladies and gentlemen, before our guest comes on, we want to get through a couple things. One of those being injuries. So Glenn, what do we got for us, dude? I'm pretty excited actually to talk about this because didn't we have perfect attendance?
Bruh, everyone's participating except for, Arthur Maulet even came back in a limited fashion yesterday before registering a DNP today, but he's certainly on his way back and has that 21-day window to return to the active roster. But outside of that, everyone played. I mean, even Michael Pierce, who missed last week, Andrew Voorhees, who missed last week, both back at practice. Now, Voorhees in limited fashion, so it's kind of still up in the air as far as who's starting at the left guard position, which we're going to get into in a little while. But any Ravens fan, I mean, Jimmy, are we not giving enough credit to the change in philosophy here that went 2 years ago when they went away from the early morning practices, which were a long time, the norm in the NFL, and kind of bucked the trend and went for those afternoon practices. I mean, that amongst many other things they changed. Fully new training staff came in after letting go the last one. Is there any link to that, or are they just lucky this year and they were unlucky before?
Yeah, I'm going to say split right down the middle because I do think naturally there is luck, right?
And bad luck.
Yeah, and bad luck, right? But yeah, I do think there's something you said about being prepared. And if the statistics and all that stuff showed them that it was better to practice at that time, then look, go for it. That's the way I see it. And I'm happy that they did. But I guess we're going to get into this. I'm kind of jumping ahead. But Glenn, I'm going to tell you right now, after watching John's post-game speech, there's zero chance that Voorhees is starting at left guard.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Not
he loves him, Pat McCary,
dude. I mean, did you see talking to him coming off the field, talking to him in the post game?
He loves him.
That's Pat's job, dude.
Yeah.
What
I hope we don't see, Jimbo, is they go, all right, we're putting Voorhees back in there, but because we love Pat so much, we're going to go back to the timeshare right now.
I hope not either. I think Rosengarten's got the job, right?
He's got to. He's earned it at this point.
Sorry, I didn't mean to kind of deviate there, but
it's all good.
Just want to mention that because you're, kind of touching on that a little bit. But let's also talk about their injury report. I think it's funny that if forever and in perpetuity, Joe Burrow's right wrist will show up on the injury report.
Yep.
Forever. I guess I don't think it's funny. I guess that's probably not the best thing that's funny, but you know what I mean? It's just a thing. now, right? It's a
Yeah,
mainstay.
that'll be interesting to see if it's just like, forever now, and that's
Right.
just what it is. Trey Hendrickson, that's the big one for them, right? That's
Yeah.
their, and we're gonna get into, but man, you talk about important players. Trey Hendrickson is about all that for the defensive side of the ball. He's a limited participant. Looks like he's on track to play. Same with BJ Hill, who's had some injury issues this year. Looks like he's good to go. Sheldon Rankins, the other big defensive tackle, has not participated thus far. Has outside shot, but looking like he's not going to be able to make it go this weekend. So they don't have the worst report I've seen, but anybody's is going to be less fortunate than where the Ravens are right now.
Yeah, no, certainly. I couldn't agree with you more. But with that said, we got through the injury report. I think it's probably best we bring in our guests and not leave them waiting any longer. I'm going to dish it over to John. I'm going to dish this one over to Glenn to give us our best WWE type introduction here.
Well, without further ado, you guys, you know what? I don't know if has he been on our show alone, or I know we've been on his show a few times, but I don't know if he's represented for his show yet at this point. But look, I'm always excited to talk to these guys. They do a great job of covering the Bengals and everything involved with them. The co-host of the Bengals, now what is this? Am I mistaken here, John? Can you correct me on what is the actual? Is it the Orange and Black Insiders for the Bengals? Is that correct? Now, how does it go? Does it go Bengals Orange and Black Insiders, or what's the official title here?
Well, first of all, thank you, James and Glenn, for having me on. It is the
Absolutely.
Orange and Black Bengals Insider Podcast, presented by the Believe Podcast Network, now a part of Believe in Cincy Podcast Network, where we have a bunch of different Bengals shows, including ours. And yes, I am the lesser half of my podcast with Anthony Cosenza. He's the co-host, or he's the main host. He's been running it for about 8 years now. I've only been there for about 6, but the show goes with him, so I am humbly representing on his behalf.
That's awesome.
Welcome to the show. Appreciate your time. I'm going to jump right into it. I got to get your take on what's happened thus far with the Bengals. Big expectations by the fans, but certainly even sounds like the players themselves, they call themselves the team to beat. Didn't start the season how they wanted. What's the atmosphere right now around this Bengals team when it comes to the fan base in the city of Cincinnati?
Well, right now on October 3rd, it is significantly better than what it was, like September 9th or September 16th or maybe even September 24th when there was yet to be a win. They laid a stinker in week 1, and I think it opened a lot of people's eyes against the New England Patriots, and it led to a lot of fear. And that weekend specifically, in week 1, when you had Jamar Chase, who was still clearly pissed that he didn't get a contract extension. He didn't practice all in training camp. T. Higgins was dealing with hamstring injuries. There was a lot of doom and gloom, and rightfully so, because love what you just said. There were legitimate expectations entering the season for a bounce-back season after how 2023 ended, and there was just a lot of similar fears about, this team has yet to evolve offensively, and their defense was looking even worse, compounded with a lot of the injury issues that they were going with. But as you guys are well aware, for whatever reason, with Joe Burrow and Zach Taylor, the month of September is just the preseason for them, and they've yet to take it seriously for whatever reason, and this ended up being the worst start of their careers in terms of both of them kind of combining. They've never been 0-3 with Burrow under center before, so the vibes are not necessarily good. The vibes are better now because it does seem that a lot of the expectations about what the offense was supposed to look like, that is coming together, and now it's just a matter of, can the defense get healthy in time, obviously, for the most important game of the season so far.
Yeah, no, I think I agree with you in that I don't really have a ton of concerns. Oh, I wouldn't if I were a Bengals fan, and certainly I don't, not as a Bengals fan, like having concern. I wouldn't have concerns around this offense getting the things going and continue to improve. And just like you said, I mean, it seems to be a preseason trend for them, but continue to improve. I mean, you expect that of Joe Burrow. He's got the guys on the outside, etc. Got a good running back there. Shout out to the Utes. But I want to talk about the defense, right? And because that seems to be the concern from a lot of people that I've talked to that are Bengals fans. Currently ranked 21st. They're struggling, giving up 26 points a game. Is it a health thing, or do you think that, is this a concern from we just don't have the personnel? Is it schematic? What do you consider the contributing factors to their struggles?
It's fair to call it both, because they definitely didn't plan for the likes of Zach Carter, Jay Tufele, and Lawrence Guy to be playing the majority of snaps at defensive tackle in the middle of September. So B.J. Hill and Sheldon Rankins injuries, like you guys alluded to, that's definitely hurt them over the past couple of weeks. But even if they had both those guys healthy, even if they had, for example, DJ Reader back, because that was a big story in the offseason, how they let him go for Detroit. Even if all those guys were back there, I think this defense would still have major concerns of tackling in the second level and the third level. You guys are obviously very aware of Geno Stone and what he brought to the table, and his biggest weakness out of Baltimore was his lack of tackling and his bad angles, and that's definitely showed up at times so far in his early Bengals career. Von Bell, who they also brought back this year, he's not been the same player that he was in that 2020 to 2022 range when he was a pretty decent starting safety next to Jesse Bates. So they're not getting good quality safety play in terms of run defense. Their cornerbacks aren't necessarily tackling either, and I think a lot of those issues in the secondary have led to some of these explosive runs that they've given up. So I don't even think that the defensive tackles are being terrible in terms of just holding their gaps and whatnot, but a lot of these 2nd and 10 and 1st and 10 runs are just leading to like 1st or 2nd and medium or 3rd and manageable, and they're not getting enough stops at the line. So it's not completely on like the secondary making bad angles. I think it's just a lot of issues compounding on each other, and the lack of health up front has definitely not helped.
Yeah, certainly health an issue I mean, it seems like the Ravens might be the healthiest team right now, which is crazy to think when all the issues that they've had in years past. But what does this offensive do to move the ball? Like what's the driving force? What's the identity? Because it seems like the Ravens found their identity offensively. And like Jimmy said, it doesn't seem like offense is the problem for the Bengals. So how do they move the ball, and what's kind of the strengths of this offense?
It's really taking kind of a 180 type of a turn, because historically under Joe Burrow, or with Joe Burrow, a quarterback, it's been 11 personnel spread out in the shotgun and just have like a downhill gap scheme run game. And that's been, according to the strengths of their personnel when they had, a quality trio of receivers. And when Tyler Boyd left this offseason and they basically rebuilt the tight end group from the ground up, they drafted a guy in Eric All in the 4th round, and he's essentially become their main chess piece at the position at tight end. So they now lead the league in 12 personnel usage, which has 2 tight ends and a running back on the field. They're going under center more, and they're even using All as like a lead blocker out of the backfield, specifically for Chase Brown running the ball. And he had his best game running against the Panthers last week for about 80 yards and 2 touchdowns on 15 carries. So they have this tight end who can line up in line, he can line up in the backfield, he's motioning at the snap, and they're gaining a lot of success running the ball out of those looks, and they're using that personnel and packages for play action as well, and Burrow's passing under center a little bit more, and a lot of that shotgun stuff is still a part of the game plan, and it's still what they'd like to do, particularly with Chase and Higgins, but you're seeing a lot more 2 tight end sets on the field, and it's led to a lot more consistency and offensive success. So it's definitely an evolved version of the Bengals offense that people are used to, and I think that's led to how they've been kind of rekindling their explosive ability, because the lack of explosive plays over the past couple of years has been their biggest Achilles heel, and they've been trying like hell to try to get that back. And I feel like condensing things and going under center a little bit more and just mixing up their personnel usage, that's kind of led to this kind of a bit of a renaissance, I guess, for them offensively.
Yeah, speaking of the offense, I gotta ask you something that I think sometimes you'll see it on Twitter and sometimes the national media will pick it up. Joe Burrow's wrist always seems to be on the news. What's the deal? What's going on there? I know there's some people that are on each side of the fence as far as, his ability to push the ball downfield long term, what the long-term recovery and likelihood is that he can grip the ball, et cetera, right? So you're there, more than us. What's going on with the wrist? And is it a long-term concern objectively that people should have?
So I ended up interviewing like an orthopedic surgeon back in May whose specialty is with the hands and wrists and everything. And obviously it's not Burrow's doctor and everything, but what he told me was that this is something that will probably affect him for the majority of the first year of his recovery. So probably up until, like the 1-year anniversary, which is like this November. And on and off inflammation is going to be a normal thing. So he's going to have to manage that after every practice, after every game. But obviously the more that he practices, the more that he plays, the more that he uses it, obviously he'll get more and more used to it. So I think as the offseason kind of progressed, they were taking it a little bit slow. They were making sure that he wasn't overexerting it and everything like that. And maybe it did show up a couple times, maybe in the first game when he was actually using it in a real game situation. But I haven't noticed that it's been impacting the zip on his balls or his willingness to push the ball down the field. He was exactly like me when I think some reporter, questioned, like, he was caught on camera picking up a water bottle weird, and it kind of circulated on Twitter, and people were speculating off of it. I didn't even notice it, and he didn't notice it. I guess he just picked it up a little bit awkwardly, but I haven't seen, if you didn't know about his injury, I don't think that you would notice that there was an injury that he was recovering, but I'm sure he himself is taking care of it, and he knows what's going on, and no one knows the situation more than him. But if I were to speculate, it would be that it's just a true 1 year recovery type thing, and it's just something he's going to have to manage. But I don't think it's necessarily made a huge impact on his plays thus far.
Gotcha.
Yeah. It's been the media loves to grab those clips. So Mossy has a question for you, John, and I'm not sure if I like this question, Mossy, but I appreciate the generosity and participation, so I'm certainly going to read it to John. He says, "Hey, John, what is it about Burrow, Zach, and Bengals that makes them not fear Chiefs and always play well against them? What can the Ravens learn from them?" I protest this question, but John, we will accept your answer.
I mean, the NFL's kind of funky like that, right? Like, what if the Chiefs were the Browns and the Bengals would never be able to beat the Chiefs, right? There's just these weird dynamics, I guess, between certain teams, and different matchups can create some different types of results, but I don't know, man. Like, I feel like for the most part, Burrow and the core leadership of the team can usually prepare these guys for the biggest games. And obviously, there's no bigger adversary in the entire NFL than the Chiefs right now. And I don't know. Like, I feel like in that first matchup, all the way back in 2021, there was a true underdog mentality with them, and they kind of shocked the world and won the division that year. And since then, maybe like it's kind of been in the Chiefs' head a little bit, and maybe that's been a beneficial for the Bengals in that regard. But I think Lunarumo's defense matches up pretty well with what Andy Reid and Mahomes like to do. So there's always been that kind of edge, I think, from a schematic standpoint. And again, like, I think a guy like Burrow, who may not always have like the perfect game necessarily, and where you want to put him on the rankings is up for debate, but I think going up against like the best quarterbacks in the league, he typically shows up, and that's obviously important when you're going up against Mahomes.
Yeah, 100%. And I think ultimately, there's a matchups make fights, right? Like, styles make fights, isn't that the saying?
Mm-hmm.
Or like, I think that's another thing there as far as that question goes. But the other thing, from a macro perspective, you're looking at this game, and you're trying to convince Bengals fans that this game can be won. I mean, it's a home game for you guys. I think it's obviously winnable game. Much respect to the Bengals. It's a division game, so anything can happen, I think, at the end of the day. But what are you pinpointing to the things that give you optimism around the likelihood of this game coming out in a positive fashion, a victory for the Bengals? If there's 1, 2, maybe 3 things that you're looking at and you're saying, hey, these are the things we can hang our hat on. And these are the things that we should hold on to while we're going into this game as, pieces of positive things that we've taken from this last game.
I feel like even when the Bengals were going to the playoffs and, nearly going to back-to-back Super Bowls, there wasn't a ton of confidence that they could win shootouts. I think a lot of their success late in the season has revolved around just like making the right plays on offense, but compounding that with a lot of clutch moments on defense and relying on the defense to kind of, closing out those games and whatnot. And that doesn't exist anymore from a defensive standpoint for the Bengals, but the trust in the offense to put up enough points in any given week, I feel like that has now arrived. And that's why in this game specifically, when you're dealing with an offense that everyone in Cincinnati knows that they cannot stop, right? The Ravens are going to score points this game. How many points, we'll have to see on Sunday, but I feel like this is the first time in the Burrow era where there's like a legitimate confidence that the offensive line is going to hold up at least enough. The receivers are there. The running game is there. Burrow is playing well, and the play calling is complemented all that pretty well. So there's enough confidence that no matter who the opponent is now, that the Bengals can put up enough points to keep them in the game. And obviously when the fourth quarter comes down, it's just about which team makes the one play or the last play of the game. And I feel like there's the confidence to get there. So if the Bengals are going to win this game, it's not going to be because they held the Ravens to under 20, 25 points or something like that. It's just going to be who has the ball last, and if the Bengals can put up one final score. And also, to add on to that point, I think, because the Ravens typically don't give the Bengals a lot of possessions because they like to run the ball and they chew a lot of clock. And in a weird way, I feel like if the Ravens put up a lot of explosive plays and kind of shorten those drives, it may give the Bengals the ball back more times than maybe they're expected, which is like turning, obviously a bad negative into like some type of a weird positive. But any way that the Bengals can get more possessions in this game, I think it's going to be a positive, and that might just have to be with the Ravens scoring faster.
Yeah, it could be a shootout. I think you're right. I think that's a good point. I think this is going to be potentially a very high-scoring affair. What is your prediction, John? And is this a must-win this weekend?
It kind of feels that way because I don't know, however much confidence that you have in the quarterback or the overall team and how healthy the team is getting, 1-4 is 1-4, just like 0-3 was 0-3 a couple weeks ago, and it would already be a very rare case if the Bengals were to make the playoffs after starting that bad. But 1-4, we're already 0-1 in the division. It is kind of weird though, guys, that this is the first AFC North game of the season. It's already October. But it does kind of feel like that must win because I feel like the optics of losing this game are not going to be good. It's going to be a lot of the same rehashed narratives about this Bengals team as currently constructed cannot compete in the AFC North. Very obvious issues about stopping the most dominant rushing attack in the league with one of the worst rushing defense in the league. That's going to be a talking point. Even if they have the ability to rattle off some wins against like the Giants and the Browns and the Eagles in the following weeks, it's still going to be a pretty massive hole for them to get out of. And obviously, you're already losing ground in the AFC North. So if there is a must-win game that didn't already happen, it probably was going to be like that Washington game where they dropped 0-3. It's probably going to be this one just because of the implications of the division.
Yeah.
And prediction, John? Prediction?
Yeah,
what
about
Oh,
that.
that's right. Yeah, right. Sorry.
It's all good.
Yeah, I feel like because the Bengals haven't been underdogs at home very often, and typically when they do, they either cover or they win. So I think it's like 2.5 points right now for the Ravens.
It's at 1 right now, I see. I have it pulled up.
Oh, really?
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
1 point favorite.
Must have changed a little bit. So I will give the Ravens a 1-point win here. I'll give them 31-30.
All right.
All right, John. Well, thank you so much. Yeah.
Yeah, that's always difficult to do. It's always difficult to predict your team to lose. At least I know this for me. Oh man.
Oh man, Jimmy is. I don't know if Jimmy. Actually, the one time Jimmy did do it, we ended up.
Have I done it once?
One time, and we won. And you
look,
said,
and I'm trying to be objective. Yeah, and here we go. We blow somebody out. I don't even remember what it is. But John, thank you so much. Looking forward to continued engagement. Good luck over there, and of course, health and prosperity to you guys and the Bengals. Except this coming week and the next time.
We can wish them health, but not.
Yeah, the health, not prosperity. That's right. Exactly. Yeah, man. Appreciate it, John. Have a great evening.
Right back to you guys. Enjoy the game.
Thanks, too. John. You too. Cool. Well, hey, I mean,
dude, I just gotta stop. I asked the dumbest questions on the face of the planet right there. I forgot how to speak English.
What do you mean? Dude?
Sorry, guys. I just want to say that temporarily I forgot the English language. My bad.
You did great, Jimbo.
But we appreciate John. Thank you, Glenn. Dude, let me tell you what. You guys get yourself a friend like Glenn.
That's it, man.
Dude.
Same with Jimmy. You get a couple Jimmys on your side, you're in good shape. Let me tell you. Always blessed.
Literally.
Always blessed as, hey, fellas. As always, great show. God bless you and your families. Ravens fan till the death of me. Final score 28-14. Look, I don't think anyone would be shocked to see that score. We know what happens when Lamar lines up opposite Joe Burrow. It's a dub. What's going on, Don C in Victoria? What's going on? Appreciate it.
Yeah, I like the doubling them up.
He's feeling sleepy, huh? Come on, Don. Come on, bruh. Open them eyes, bruh. Turn me up.
Glenn, your mic is going crazy. And it was actually funny when you said turn me up. You went, turn me. It sounded like a DJ.
Is he still doing it?
No, you're back now. Dude, it was just a DJ effect. You hit a button, dude.
Dude, you see what I'm saying? That's the big guy, dude. Scratching records.
That's
from way up there.
Divine intervention, bro.
My man, keep it up.
That's awesome.
I appreciate it. But all right, let's get into
let's do it.
Our portion. We certainly appreciate John's perspective and his time. But I want to get into the Bengals defense and how the Ravens offense matches up with them. Okay. So let's first talk about some players to watch for. I'm going to share my screen because look, Jimbo, this is just not what I'm used to seeing. Like the Bengals defense in the last few years has had talent all over the place. I'm used to seeing studs at all three levels. I'm used to seeing production at all three levels. And Jimbo, they have not performed up to their standard that they've set for themselves these last couple years. I'll say this: Logan Wilson, still a tackling machine. We'll wait and see if we ever see a hip drop penalty. Not that I'm mad about it.
Right.
But let's not forget that Logan Wilson is the reason this rule was created.
Right.
And there's been some examples of it this year. Not from Logan, not saying that, but haven't seen it called.
Yep.
Not that I'm mad about it, because I didn't want it to be over-policed anyway.
Right.
But Jimbo, we also have to acknowledge their stud, Trey Hendrickson, 3 sacks on the year, still getting it done. Let me just say this, Jimbo, 3 sacks. They have 5 total as a team.
Dude.
So
Van Noy is out-sacking them by himself.
Oh, yeah. He has 6 by himself. Dax Hill has 1. He's certainly going to be out there this weekend. And then the 2 D tackles pitch in for a half each. But Trey Hendrickson, by far their leader in that category. Whereas, what's his name? Sam Hubbard is yet to get to the quarterback, which he is typically kind of the Robin to the Batman of Hendricks. And then intercepting the ball, they have 3 total interceptions pitched in by a collection of different defensive backs on their team. But Jimbo, not a lot of plays being made on this side of the ball, getting absolutely run through. Let me give you a couple numbers. Ramondre Stevenson, week 1, goes 25 for 120. Pacheco, week 2, goes 19 for 90. Hubbard from the Panthers last week goes 18 for 104.
Yeah, I mean, look, it's not good. Just like I said before, they're giving up 26 points a game. Of course, that ranks them among the bottom of the teams in points. Despite some of the talent you mentioned they have on defense, I really think they have difficulty containing both the run and the pass. And that's a problem. Like, you can have difficulty containing one, but I mean, look at the last game. You talked about it against the Panthers. Not only did the Panthers run well, they gave up 375 total yards and 25 points to the Panthers. Now, they had the Red Rocket under center. Nonetheless, they're not a good football. Did I call him the Red Rocket? The Red Rifle?
We know it, the Red Rocket.
That's my dog's wiener, dude. My freaking dog, dude.
Don't embarrass Coda, bro.
Poor, he's a distinguished gentleman now at 11 years old. You're right. But, yeah, the Bengals defense will certainly need to improve if they hope to have any sort of playoff aspirations.
Yeah, they are a absolute liability for this team right now. The offense, like Jimmy said earlier, is not the problem. They cannot stop a nosebleed on defense. It's absolutely unbelievable. We talked about the rushing totals against them. And look, Jaden Daniels is doing this against virtually everyone. But in their matchup, 21 out of 23 for 254 and 2 touchdowns. And they adds 12 more carries on the ground for 39 and a touchdown. So 3 touchdowns overall, 2 incompletions on the day. Yeah, like this defense is in scramble mode right now. And let me tell you, just as talking about them as a personnel standpoint, they got the guys up front. They're just underperforming in a lot of ways. They got a pretty damn good linebacker in Wilson, but their secondary, Jimbo, is hot garbage. They have a safety. Dax Hill is a safety. He's starting corner for them. Like, he's not a corner.
Right.
Cam Taylor-Britt is as bad as it gets in the league. Like, he is god-awful. Geno Stone underperforming, like John said, taking bad angles, missing open field tackles. Their secondary has been hot. Von Bell, like, they've been bad, Jimbo. Bad.
Absolutely terrible. And look, Glenn, to your point, I now get super excited, not only from a passing perspective, but also from a running perspective, when the secondary is not good. Yeah. Because if Derrick Henry can just simply get through the first line, forget about it, right? Deion Sanders, I heard a quote the other day. He said that he would tell his linebackers in games against players like Derrick Henry, which there aren't very many, but he was referencing Derrick Henry. Mm-hmm. He said, I'd tell him, look, my shoulders are for suits, not tackling guys like that. So you're gonna get it done tonight or what, right? And like, I don't know if Logan Wilson can be your only answer to Derrick Henry. And like you said, they got some talent, got some names, but I'm excited to see Derrick get a full head of steam and start chewing up the field in that second level. Some business decisions will certainly be made. If arguably the best corner of all time tells you about business decisions, everybody else is doing it.
Mm-hmm. And you saw it in the tape last week. If you looked at that run where Taylor Rapp hurt his head tackling him, there was business decisions being made around that field, and it just wasn't Taylor Rapp, and he paid the price because I mean, he picked the wrong time to have his head run into the thigh of King Henry. But yeah, I mean, as far as how the Ravens are going to be looking to attack, I think right now, if I'm the Ravens, look, the running success has been no matter which way they go, they're having success. Typically having a lot of success on those outside zone runs. And I think this time I want to see a little bit more between the tackles. I want to see, between the tackles. Let's really gash these guys right in the heart of their defense. Their D tackles are not playing well. I want to take advantage of a weakness on this defense, but also don't be surprised, Jimbo, if we do see a little more leveling when it comes to the run pass here. Like, I don't think we'll see a 45-15 game this year, or this week, like we've been seeing recently. I think we're going to have success through the air as well, because again, their secondary is hot garbage, trash. So run the ball, but throw the ball as well. I mean, I think they're going to have opportunities to get chunk plays down the field through the air and then just absolutely punish them on the ground.
Yeah, no, I agree. Glenn, I'm so excited about our offense because I think this is what we've been looking for as far as being a well-rounded offense. I want to give you these 3 stats that I think are really cool. We all know you talked about the rushing attack, averaging 220 rushing yards per game right now, best in the NFL, you can imagine. But the offensive line, I think, has been playing really well and continuing to get better every game. They're allowing for the protection for, 7.9 passing yards per attempt. And we're at a 42% conversion rate on third down. So like any way you slice it, we're an effective football team right now. And that's really exciting because just like we've talked about before, just they got to play us honest, play us straight up. And man, I'm excited about running through the freaking Bengals at home and listening to a pin drop in that stadium after we absolutely take their souls from their body. Dude, I totally forgot where we're at. The other thing I wanted to mention, I don't think you've gotten to this yet, but as far as offensive matchups goes, I'm excited to see Ronnie Hendrickson go at it because he's gotten the best of Ronnie in a number of games. I'll never forget the one where the holding penalty was called on Ronnie. I think they were chirping back and forth or something, and he told Ronnie to look up at the scoreboard. And man, that one pissed me off.
Yeah, scoreboard checks, they hurt when you're losing.
Yeah, big time. I mean, I've done that before to other people.
A good one, though. I think, yeah. Oh, it doesn't feel good.
It does. It's the best one because, like, it's the most objective one. It's like, dude,
yeah, it's the trump card, dude.
You. Full disclosure, of course, I could have gone to Edgewood High School, and so every time I played Edgewood, all the kids wanted to destroy me in lacrosse or soccer, but it's not as physical. And every time I would just be like, dude, just look at the scoreboard. Like, you can hit me all game. That's fine. But we're dominating you. So anyway, yeah, I know that one really well.
Watch your next words carefully, okay? You're talking to a ram here.
That's true. But you understand my
all right?
Right?
All right, yeah, I mean, I hear you, but you're talking to a ram here.
I like to think, though, Glenn, if you're a spectator of the game, your loyalties lie with me and then your school.
That's fair.
That's fair.
Yeah.
I mean, at least my safety, right? You guys are trying to break my collarbones.
Oh, no,
right?
you're good. Yeah, I got you.
Yeah, because look, I'd get a couple good looks and be like, that really hurt. But you know what? Look at that scoreboard. Well, I'm laying on the ground.
Scoreboard hasn't changed. Now, I think that's a great matchup. I think that is going to be one to watch. Ronnie versus Hendrickson. I'll save that for the defensive side of the ball.
Yeah.
But how about your X factor? Because I'm interested for you to share this one with the fans and explain this one to me.
It has to be Andrews at this point. It still has to be. Because I just talked about how well-rounded we've been, but I feel like the one piece that's been missing, it's crazy. While DK's in the chat, he must be real drunk to not be in the chat and in the show. What's up, DK? Or we just didn't tell him the show was tonight. No, we did.
No,
we told him.
No.
Yeah, we told him.
He prepped the banner. I mean,
that's true. DK's just getting hammered right now.
That's right.
Joined to be a YouTube member.
That's
nice.
Right. DK's musings just dropped. Which, by the way, I clicked on it. I was a member because Don C gifted me a membership. And now it told me I couldn't watch it when I clicked on it.
I thought you were going to say because of Katie.
It was like, you are not a member. I'm like, what? I was a member because Don C gifted me a membership.
Just so you know, you can go to our YouTube studio and watch them.
Oh, gotcha. No, I tried.
No, you can. Anyway.
I clicked on it.
I just did it today.
Look, I'm going to show you after the show.
You're probably signed into YouTube as me.
As me.
Yeah. You know what I mean? Right. But no, I was gonna say, what the heck was I gonna say, Glenn? You totally threw me off.
Oh, you were gonna talk. You were talking about Mark Andrews. And
oh, dude, it has to be Mark Andrews. Let me tell you why. Because to me, that's just the last question mark I have. Because late in the season, when it's cold, when it's 3rd and 8, when it's 3rd and 7, I still think that passing the ball, I would prefer that the scenario be if we only have to go to one guy and it's Mark. I mean, if we only prefer to go to one guy, it'd be Mark, Zay, or Isaiah. Say what you want. I still want the ball to go to Mark. That's where I want it to go. I know that might sound crazy. He obviously hasn't been showing up in the stat sheet, but I feel like him and Lamar have that history and that synergy. So I need to see him stand out. And then also, I mentioned it last week. I know you mentioned it in the preview show. That's another way we sustain drives. Mark is outside of just Lamar. Mark is a 3rd down machine. Mm-hmm. So let's get the guy the ball. Let's get him some confidence and get him going. It has to be Mark. Has to be the X factor in this game. Yeah, for the sake of us continuing to progress as an offense this year.
I think that's a good point. If we want to be at our very best at the end of the season, that equation has to include Mark Andrews, and we don't want a version of Mark Andrews where he doesn't have confidence and he's more worried about blocking than catch. Not that I don't want him to block, right, but he's got to know he's there to catch the ball first and block second, no doubt about it. But my offensive matchup is really. It's all about self-inflicted wounds. It's the Ravens against themselves. And it's about the unforced turnovers and unforced errors that we've seen stall drives here in the last couple, even the games where we've had a tremendous amount of success. Think about the 2 drive killers in last week's game that could have really turned the tide. And even Lamar Jackson was so pissed about it that even in a dominant blowout win, that's all he was focused on. That's another thing that's like, man, this guy's so locked in. It's this guy's team. He ain't messing around. The fumble by Lamar Jackson almost turned the game around. And then the drop by Mark Andrews followed by a penalty on our left tackle that killed it. Like, you can't kill the drives with unforced turnovers and unforced penalties. There's really no excuse for it. So, and really unforced errors in general, because Mark Andrews dropped a 20-yard gain, at least 15 yards, but likely a 20-yard gain. And it could have totally changed the game. So my whole thing is not that I'm not expecting to make every play. Of course, there's going to be plays that aren't going to be made out there, but the layups, the gimmies, the easy, like no pre-snap penalties. I better not see a damn pre-snap penalty. If you're going to get screwed by the refs, it better not be on. You have no excuse when you have false starts and stupid and offsides on the defensive side of the ball. No free play, no silliness. It's just about the Ravens against themselves in my key offensive matchup.
And I think that's excellent. Think about this, Glenn, if there's just one thing, like sometimes we all have big asks, but at the end of the day, if we only have one ask, right, it is that there's no pre-snap penalties. Can you just imagine a game where there's just one game, no pre-snap penalties? Wow. Right? How Beautiful awesome would that be? Yeah. Yep. I'm looking forward to
And then my offensive player of the week, Jimbo. He's been quiet.
He has?
As of late. And there was now we're winning, but there was a small little like on Facebook or on Twitter, I think it was, wasn't it? Where he liked something criticizing our offense a couple weeks ago.
Yep.
I don't want an unhappy, Zay Flowers who's lacking in enthusiasm. I want Zay as an active participant. I think he brings a lot of energy to this team, not just on game day, but every day at practice. This guy, he's just a special type of personality and player that I want this guy hot. I want him engaged. I don't want him, forgetting his true role in this offense, which is the number 1 wide receiver. So let's make sure we get this guy the ball in many different ways, including at and around the line of scrimmage and down the field. Please, chunk plays and quick plays. Do both. Don't just do line of scrimmage stuff. Not to say get rid of it, but let's do both. I want to see this guy down the field as well. He's my offensive X factor.
Couldn't agree more. I like that one, Glenn. I'm looking forward to Zay getting more involved as well. But let's switch this thing over to the defensive side of the ball and give you a little bit of breakdown on the Ravens. Of course, you guys know our defense. There goes my light. What we've been doing lately. But look, we got some guys. We got some things going on. I'm going to give you a little bit of the breakdown here. The Baltimore Ravens defense is currently 5th in the NFL, excelling both particularly in the pass game and the stopping the run, allowing Glenn, can you believe this statistic? I had to double check this one. Tell me if I'm wrong. Okay. This is according to Fox. 57.8 rushing yards a game?
I thought you were going to say less, Jimbo. I mean, that's how dominant.
Of course, it's the best in the league. Look, John said it before. I think John's introductory presser, he talked about this. We stop the run and we run the ball. And this is like a million years ago, so I could be wrong. Look, our pass defense has been a little bit more vulnerable. We give up 257 passing yards per game. I would like to know how many of those are in the fourth quarter. And then, Glenn, I know you're going to talk about this a little bit, but some of our key guys, we talked about Van Noy is on an absolute tear. Your guy, the Baconator, Odafe Owe, 3.5 sacks. I think our front has really turned into the strength of this defense, which nobody would have predicted, and their ability, of course, to generate the pass rush without the over-reliance on the blitz. Yeah, man, the defense is looking good, Glenn. Some problems for old Joey B, who likes to hold on to that football. Some problems for me, who doesn't want to eat a Baconator.
Yes. Yeah, this could absolutely be a problem here, Jimbo. But I do want to talk about quickly what they're bringing to the table on the offensive side of the ball before we talk about our guys on defense. So Joe Burrow there, as you can see, he's playing very well. 7 touchdowns, just 1 pick thus far, 71% completion percentage. He's getting the ball out of his hands quick, which is kind of a staple in the last year and a half for Joe Burrow, trying to get the ball out of his hands faster, to limit the amount of times he's knocked to the ground and risking that risk for further injury. He has been sacked 8 times, however, in 4 games. So those tackles, look, they got Mims at right tackle, and they got big, slow, sloppy Orlando Brown at left tackle. We know about Orlando Brown, right? Like, you can get this guy if you just play your ass off and play hard, because he'll decide to take a play off here and there. Now, he might be more motivated to play against the Ravens than any team in the league.
Right.
But on the other side, you talk about Mims, who's athletic, injury concerns, but he's playing in his 3rd game as a starter. KVN should be licking his absolute chops. But look, they do also have a pair of running backs who are not equal in their amount of attempts, but almost equal in yards and almost equal in yards per game. Chase Brown and Zach Moss both running the ball relatively well for the Cincinnati Bengals. And, of course, Jamar Chase, the leading receiver, 300 yards so far on the season, adding 3 touchdowns. I wanted to ask John about this guy, Andre Losivas, I think his name is. Or no,
the receiver.
Eosivas, that's right. Eosivas. It's AI.
Fantasy sleeper.
Got 3 touchdowns already on the season as they kind of wait for, T. Higgins to kind of work himself back into game shape and get more acclimated, more involved in the offense. But Eosivas, 3 early tutties, averaging 10 yards per catch. Got to watch out for this guy. And, of course, T. Higgins, he's a stud, playing himself back into shape, and I expect that guy to be an absolute problem for every team, not just the Ravens. But
yeah, now, Glenn, give me your matchup, because I'm excited to talk about this one.
Yeah, so, look, there's
as Glenn exposes the man behind the curtain again. My red blanket over here.
Thank you for helping. I appreciate it. The one thing that I think is that the Ravens are going to make sure that they do not allow the Bengals to get, and it's a key that the Bengals really want to get down the field, is chunk plays, particularly attacking the outside corners of the Ravens. And we know that they've had issues getting their head around and defending the pass. However, this year, there's only been 4 corners in the entire league to not allow a pass of 15 or more yards on the entire season. We know who's right there. Marlon Humphrey. Got to give this guy some credit, because he gets a lot. Look, he gets highly paid. He has a podcast, and he's a bit of a goofball and a goober. And so he gets criticized a ton, and sometimes rightfully so, with his inability to seemingly find the ball when it's thrown over his head. But Jimbo, this isn't the matchup that I think is most key. I don't think it is Marlon Humphrey. I think get ready, Jimbo. Boom. Exposed.
Oh gosh. All right. I got it. Pay
no attention to the green screen failing him. But no, it's to me, it's all about Nate Wiggins against Jamar Chase. I expect another. Yeah, and I mean, look, this is why we got the guy, right? To guard guys like Jamar Chase and prevent the deep ball. But because that's my matchup, Wiggins versus Chase. But I'm sure we're going to see some Wiggins versus Brandon Stevens. We saw Stevens fighting his ass off last week, giving up a couple tough grabs to Keon Coleman, but always right there. Whereas Wiggins dropped a couple of easy interceptions, drawing some light criticism from his safety and Kyle Hamilton. But do you expect to see the same thing we saw last week and even the week before, where Marlon Humphrey's spending a ton of time on the inside and primarily the odd two corners are Brandon Stevens and Nate Wiggins?
Yeah, I don't see that changing. Just because of personnel that they have. I shouldn't say just because of personnel. I'm not saying we're not too rigid of a defense not to do that, but man, Marlon is just so valuable there. And it seems to be a perfect fit. And Wiggins needs to grow one time or another, right? Like, how else is he going to need these reps if he doesn't get these reps? It's just not going to happen. So I think initially, obviously, if something happens and he's just getting dogged, things can change, right? But I start that way. Yeah, I don't see any reason not to. And shout out to Don C for gifting 410 Sports Talk memberships. I'm guessing that you're in there, Glenn.
Hey, fingers crossed.
I appreciate it, Don, as always, for supporting the show. Thank you so much, my man. But yeah, I think we start out that way initially. I mean, I don't see any reason not to.
Yeah, if Nate Wiggins were all of a sudden just getting destroyed out there, maybe we have a different conversation. Yeah. But until that point, until he shows he can't do it because he hasn't thus far, then let's keep getting that guy out there and see what this guy's got. Because, I mean, he's obviously the future of the position. Uncertain what, the future holds for Marlon Humphrey and even Brandon Stevens with his contract coming up. Yep. Let's see what this guy's got. But, man, I'm excited about it. Can't let the big chunk plays happen, Jimbo. How about your key? What are you looking at this week?
Yeah, I think I talked about it before, but it has to be the key matchup for me is obviously a favorable one for the Ravens, not so much one that is a mystery, but the D-line and the edge rushers, the guys up front, really need to take advantage of this offensive line with the Cincinnati Bengals. If we can bottle up Joe, if we can make him pay the price for holding onto the football and wanting to push it down the field, I think this changes the game tremendously. And then as a second piece of that, if we can stop the run, effectively continue to dominate as we have been, but getting Joe off the spot, making him pay for holding onto the ball and taking advantage of the subpar offensive line that the Bengals have, I think is an absolute game wrecker for the Baltimore Ravens. So that's my key matchup there. Our D-line versus their O-line. I think things bode in our favor, but at the end of the day, we got to get it done.
Got to get it done. And you talked about, I mean, specifically, if I could, I mean, we got the defense, we got the reigning defensive player of the month on our team, Jimbo. 6 sacks already in just 4 games. And that's including that's while he had a broken orbital bone to boot. I mean, if I'm Kyle Van Noy, I'm going, they got no chance of blocking me. And of course, Odafe Oweh is going to continue his march to serving you a hot baconator live on the air. I might try and get a hold of Odafe and see if he can somehow be involved in this, at least watch and get to enjoy the fruits of his labors, which is watching you suffer through a baconator. But yeah, I think that's a great.
I don't know if anybody wants to actually watch the suffering.
No, we watch the eating, but not the post show.
I'll have to report about that later.
Yeah.
And I'll put that in our membership.
But Jimbo, I do got to ask you, could this be the first week? You expect this to be the first week we see Yannick Ngakoue back in the Ravens uniform?
Yeah, I was thinking about that too, and yeah, I mean that's definitely a possibility and would be fun to see. Certainly would help me out, make me feel a little bit better about.
Why would it make you feel better?
Well, just because like it's another guy that like at the very least, if they race to the quarterback, you know what I'm saying, he could get there before Ajabo, and usually like Ajabo would be the second guy there.
You mean Oweh?
Or sorry, Oweh. I got Ajabo in my mind because Ajabo is actually my defensive X factor.
Well, what if he's not even active because they activate Yannick?
I didn't think about that, Glenn. Can I be honest with you? I didn't think about that. Bro.
Oh, man. I didn't bring that up.
I'm going with Ajabo, dude.
Okay. All right.
We don't know yet, right?
No, we don't know. He could be needing some more time to get his body up,
Or they could just not activate they could not dress somebody else.
They could, Tavius Robinson. But see, I feel like Ajabo is now a situational pass rusher. And if you're going to activate Yannick, you're probably going to have to, I don't know, replace Ajabo, I would guess. Because at least Tavius brings you something on rundowns.
Yeah.
Because Yannick ain't doing that. We know that.
Yeah, he has no interest in that.
But I'm really excited to see if this defense can build on what they did last week. Because, look, you mentioned it. They're 29th right now against the pass. That's not, like Rex Ryan said, that's not right. That ain't this team. No way, no how. So just build on the success you found last week against Josh Allen. Oh, man. Why you have to bring up the O's, Chilsey?
I know, for real.
It's too soon, man.
Yeah.
It's too soon. I can't. One run, Jimbo, in 2 games at home.
And the crazy part is, Glenn, that you only gave up 3.
Yeah. Pitched your ass off.
Right. And you still lose.
Kansas City.
I mean, I tell you what, obviously I don't watch a ton of games, but I was watching that game and Henry was watching intently. And look, man, that their pitching staff absolutely put on a clinic. It was pretty embarrassing.
Jimbo, game 2, it's 1-1. Bases loaded, no outs.
Yeah, that was.
We get nothing. We get no runs. Like how? Oh my gosh! And there was a chance that me and Jimbo been screaming our heads off today at the game had it been necessary. Beautiful day in Baltimore.
Yep.
Oh gosh. Frustrating.
Yeah, bro. No kidding. But I'm going with Ajabo, Glenn.
Okay.
I think he's the third fiddle. I think he stays out there.
All right. We'll see if Yannick gets his first shot or if he needs some more time. But let's get into, without any further ado. Oh, actually, you know what? Before.
We got to shout out our winner.
We do, because we mistakenly did not announce last week's winner in our Tuesday night show. So without any further ado, let's celebrate this past week's winner, which I believe is a new winner. I've never seen this name before unless I'm mistaken, but congratulations to Malik W., this past week's winner of the competition. Thank you for your participation. Thank everyone for their participation.
Yeah.
But Malik, you are this week's winner. So simply send us a direct message on any of the social medias that we are. Again, we got to get that back on the thing here, Jimbo, so we can point to them. I can do one of these maneuvers, but let us know your address, your shirt size, and we will send you some swag. But Jimbo, let's get into. Oh, hold on now. I got something for us, bro.
Oh, wait.
Are you ready? Are you
What
ready?
is it? Oh, I'm ready.
Here we go.
I'm so glad that
I didn't.
Where's DK?
Does it automatically take it down? I guess.
I don't know, but I'm so glad that automatically mutes us because I'm always in the background like, ooh.
I wish it didn't, actually, now that you said that. But that's right, everyone. The Week 5 over-under competition is here. It's live, and we're ready to go. So let's kick it off with this week's first question, which is, man, what a key, like, what a cog this guy has become in this offense. Like, it's crazy. Like, he is a stud for us. But Justice Hill, total touchdowns. He sets it at 0.5. Does he get in the end zone or not, Jimbo?
I don't think he gets in the end zone this week. I just don't. Not that I think he'll get plenty of action as far as getting the ball and making plays, but I just don't know how. I mean, if this is going to become an every game thing, I don't think so. I don't think he gets in the end zone this week.
Wow. I do think, man, you know what? Jimmy is still not a Justice Hill guy. I think
not true.
Is going to be super involved with this week's offense, but I agree at under. All right. So does DK. We all say under.
By the way, DK won last week, our competition. Not that it matters. It doesn't really matter.
Yeah, it doesn't really matter. Whatever. And I think he might be cooking the books anyway. I don't know about it. Over under number 2 is Bengals tackles for loss. He sets it at 2.5 at the over under. Right? Like, who are the Bengals defense that makes you at all nervous other than Hendricks? Like, focus on that goofball. And the rest, it should be no problem. DK has no faith. He says over. He's the only one of us who did. But I'm sure he'll be wrong and regretful for his prediction. But yeah, I'm going to say under because I don't see who scares you on their defense other than Hendrickson. Jamar Chase is the third one. 75 and a half is the over under. What do you think, Jimbo?
Yeah, I'm going under. I think we've done a good job of containing him in the past. It's not just because I'm a Ravens fan. I think if you look at the statistics, they bear this out as well. I think it's I know that he had the one big, I mean, I still think of the big run where he had like the spin and he broke some people, broke some tackles. I mean, but yeah, I think traditionally we do well against him. I say under.
Yep, I agree for all those same reasons. And we're completely healthy. So like,
yep.
I think the issues when he had big games, we weren't completely healthy. We were super banged up in the secondary. So under as well. And DK agrees. Last one. Bengals rushing yards over under 86 and a half. Is this I don't know why I'm asking you this, Jimbo. It's an easy one.
Clear under. I mean, I love Zach Moss, but this defense has just been stout when it comes to the run game. So
yeah,
nothing else to really say. I don't think they have an opposing offensive line, and I don't think their running back is good enough, or are there very many running backs good enough to make up for a lackluster offensive line?
Yeah, and let's keep in mind Michael Pierce didn't play last week. He's back out there this week. So they're even stronger up front than they were last year. Tiebreaker number one is total score over under 49 and a half. Is that what it's at right now? Let me see here. Yep, 49 and a half is the total. BetOnline.ag has confirmed it. What do you think, Jimbo?
Yeah, I'm going over here. I think it ends up looking closer in the score than the game actually is, because I think they put some points up at the end of this game here. I think it's 31-24 Baltimore Ravens win. So if my math is correct, please check me, Glenn, but that is over. So I'm going with a win here, and I'm going over the Ravens. I think they make up some points, like I said, at the end to kind of make it look more interesting than it was.
Yeah, I'm going to say under here, Jimbo, and not by much. I'm saying barely under because they don't get that last score that you just alluded to. I think they get held at 17, but I agree the Ravens score 31. So I say under 31-17, Ravens win. Jimbo, anytime they're playing a good team, of course, it's not named the stinking ass dirty Chiefs. What happens when we play good teams, Jimbo?
Yeah.
We destroy them.
All right. Exactly. By a wide margin, so that's fair.
Yeah, I mean, we beat the hell out of the Lions when they were good. We beat the hell out of the Niners when they were the best thing in the earth. I mean, Miami came to town. We just turned their back porch red, and then the Bills, the latest victim on the list, where they were the consensus best team in the power rankings, and we beat the absolute shit.
Yeah, and I'll tell you what, Glenn, to your point, they're giving the Bengals a lot of love if they're only a 1-point favorite. I mean, if we're only 1-point favorite, excuse me, because what have they actually done this year other than beat the Panthers?
In a shootout.
Right. And what does that actually mean, right? Beating the Panthers. It's like, so they're giving them a lot of love because people are very high on the Ravens right now.
Yeah. Yeah. And they are giving them, I mean, look, they got a great roster. Desperation is certainly set in, but I think it's time to put the kitty cats back.
And I guess from a betting perspective, you take the Ravens and beating the spread.
Yeah, for sure.
For sure.
Yeah, no doubt. And then last tiebreaker, total yards for the Ravens. Closest to the pin is the challenge. I say 402, Jimbo. I'm tired of these even or a round number. No, 402, and I'm going to nail it right on the button. What do you think?
Yeah, well, I'm going more than that, Glenn. I'm going 435. I feel good about this team's ability to get explosive plays, not only in the run game because Derek can take it for 99 whenever he wants, but I think to your point, Zay gets more involved here, and the passing game has some massive plays and some broken plays as far as their secondary just simply not tackling in the passing game, turning something medium gain or short gain into something large.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, both of us have a comfortable win, I think is fair to say. It looks like, let me see here. What did DK say? He picked the under as well on the total score, and he put 340 for total yards. So he's thinking less possessions, less yards. But yeah, we'll wait and see, man.
Yeah, I think that would happen. But the thing is, I think our offense is too good, like in a weird way. Like,
no, you're right.
You know what I'm saying? we're just going to score. I'm not going to say we're going to score with ease, but it's not going to be years past Greg Roman, because this is the way that we score. I think we have more ways to score in faster ways. I think it's just going to happen.
Yeah, and it helps when you're playing against a god-awful defense, which is what the Bengals have right now.
Exactly.
But look, guys, you know where we'll be when this game's over. Right here. I mean, watching, making sure we let you guys know our instant reaction, recap the game, let you the players of the game, who played well, who didn't play well, criticism where it's due, but celebration where it's due as well. Absolutely can't wait to do it. Jimbo, anything else before we call our way out of this place?
That's right. No, just meet us after the game. Excited to do it. Just like Glenn said, we'll be here, but that's it. Have a nice night.